Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. And we're going to be talking about common generative AI use cases with Snowflake and Azure. When I say we, I'm talking about the two presenters today will be myself, Matt Marzillo. I am a partner engineer here at Snowflake, working specifically with Microsoft and Microsoft Azure on AI ML integrations and use cases. And then I'm joined by my colleague counterpart, Shankar, at Microsoft, who is a principal architect and specifically dedicated to Snowflake, working at Microsoft to work jointly on Microsoft and Snowflake integrations related to all things data and AI. Jumping right into it and kind of starting off with the Snowflake and Microsoft partnership all up. It was announced several months back that Microsoft and Snowflake signed a new contract. And it's really kind of a big kind of seminal moment for this partnership, right? And in the last several years, we've been seeing more and more customers kind of jump on board to using Snowflake on Azure and using Snowflake with all of the additional Azure resources and services. And what this contract does is it does really three things, right? It better aligns our sellers to make sure that customers are better kind of proposed how to use Snowflake with Azure. It also brings more resources to the table, right? So more engineers, more architects on both sides, Snowflake and Microsoft, to help joint customers work with both of our platforms together. And then third and lastly is it kind of commits deeper integrations and better technology for Snowflake working with Microsoft and Microsoft Azure.
And when you look at the current trends, the world is really changing after pandemic and after all the COVID and people returning back to work. We have seen that industries are transforming rapidly, and there is a lot of drivers that are required for economic growth that are evolving and getting advanced. And technologies at the inflation point with all the list of services and cloud technologies that have been announced, and the pace at which business has been adapting. So with all these different trends and signals, it's clear that the world is changing and the business are trying to adapt to that ever-changing world. So we already know that AI technology is here, right? We at Microsoft have been doing a lot of good work with AI along with partners like Snowflake. And for the last few months and over the last year and a half, we have seen that the technologies like ChatGPT and generative AI have taken the world by storm, right? All of the business are trying to adopt AI, and the AI technologies are already here with getting evolved every single day, learning and getting better as we start using the AI more and more. And one of the recent surveys with MIT found out that 87% of the organization believe that AI will give them a competitive edge, and they want to start using AI. A lot of them are at different cycles of AI, but almost 80% of them realize that they already believe and they want to start using AI more for bringing into their different business and data processes. And they are not alone at it, right? The enterprises are also ready to embrace AI. This comes from a workforce. One of the recent survey by 2023 Work Index, as the technology and work processes are evolving, 64% of employees say that they lack time and energy to do their job, right? And around 3.5% more for 3.5x more people are likely to struggle with things that revolve strategic thinking on their current job. And 70% of them are willing to delegate work to AI. This could be a small thing such as taking a summary of a meeting. It can go all the way to even helping them do data analysis. And 2x times managers are looking for AI to boost the overall productivity of themselves and their team. So how does this journey to AI transformation act? Right. So at Microsoft, we have been core front at promoting and building AI, right, and bringing revolutionary technology. And when you look at the cloud computing in general, the list of cloud stacks supports those different AI, which then involve data transformation, where services or partners like Snowflake come into play, right? And with the stable data transformation, then leads an AI transformation, which is infusing AI into your core business process as well as into your core data process, so that all of the analytics and the overall overall business processes are enhanced with the power of AI, and all these built together on top of Microsoft Cloud along with a partner like Snowflake is going to give an edge for companies to start into their AI transformation and to realize their AI journey all along the way. And for the why Microsoft Cloud, right? Because we are an holistic cloud with a complete AI stack built in. We support different use cases along with infrastructure built in through security ground up. We support digital and app innovation with different services. We have a wide variety of data and AI services that supports different use cases, as well as we complement it with a lot of products and applications like Teams for modern work. And all of these resides on top of which is the industry cloud, which is tailored specific to industries and solutions for a specific industry. And running this on top of a solution like Snowflake, which is running on Azure, is going to give the best of both worlds and giving you a most trusted and comprehensive cloud that you can run your AI and data workload.
Okay, thanks for that, 𝗫𝗫𝗀. So 𝗫𝗫𝗀 just talked a bit about kind of Microsoft and how it's working with generative AI. Now, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about Snowflake and Snowflake's perspective on generative AI before we kind of jump into how we use Microsoft and Snowflake together for Gen AI. But quickly looking at Snowflake's perspective, right? There's kind of three big pillars here, right? The big thing is, the first thing is kind of the stuff that's all native to Snowflake, right? It's having the consistent data and protection of your data and also your LLM models, right? So using all of the great features that are already inside of Snowflake for security. So things like, RBAC and column and row level security and all things like that. Moving on, we also now have the infrastructure to make LLM apps and to do that in a very easy way, right? So we're introducing things like Snowpark container services, and we have native apps, and we have Streamlit. So it's a way to kind of take all of these LLMs and generative AI capabilities and wrap them up and easily wrap them up into applications. And then lastly, it's these kind of LLM powered analytics. So these built-in things that are coming in the Snowflake platform that are going to be able to use right off the shelf, right? So we have document AI, text to code, semantic search, and all these things that you can either just use on the fly in your current workloads or wrap them up in the applications that we previously mentioned in the second pillar. And kind of just like looking at a high level architecture of what that looks like, this is kind of how we're thinking about it, right? So moving from left to right, you can see we have AI in seconds, right? So that's using those kind of built-in functions that we talked about, whether that's document AI or search or LLM functions or Copilot capabilities. You're able to kind of pick up, and anybody who's using Snowflake can pick up and use those. And then apps in minutes, you can take some of that functionality and build your own applications right inside of Snowflake, right? So using Streamlit or using some other application you want to inside of Snowpark container services, you can wrap up all of these LLM functionalities and features into your own applications that you can share internally with your organization or outside to the world. And then lastly, in the area where it kind of gets fun for us in Microsoft is kind of customizing this, right? So looking more at native apps and Snowpark container services and some of the functionality that comes along with it, you're able to reach out. You're able to use external tools and external LLM capabilities. So things like Azure OpenAI, and we already have lots of material out there because Azure OpenAI is so far ahead of the curve of how to use Snowflake with Azure OpenAI. So more to the point, why Snowflake and Azure OpenAI, right? The idea here is that we've been collaborating now for many years, right? We've kind of already set the stage. We have this great partnership and we're working on a lot of integrations. And a lot of the integrations that we already have are already going to be very useful for our joint customers to use Azure OpenAI. We have lots of broad personas and target audiences that will be able to leverage Snowflake with Azure OpenAI, right? So whether you're an app developer or a line of business owner or a data consumer, you're going to be able to use Snowflake and Gen AI with Azure very easily and get value very quickly. And there's a lot of wide variety of use cases with these two platforms, and 𝗫𝗫𝗀 will jump into that next.
Thank you, Matt. So we are going to look at some of the common use cases, what we have seen across the customer. Again, this is just a small subset of the pattern, what we have seen with Gen AI and LLM growing. There is a lot of possibilities of bringing in other use cases and bringing in innovation towards integrating it to different business processes. Across the stack, we see that for an organization with different industries, Gen AI could influence different use cases such as their marketing department, sales department, service, finance, operations, as well as workforce. Some of the examples are going to look like getting customer insights from a customer 360, doing churn analytics from the customer and the product data, and then bringing in some kind of sales insights where your sales agent or your business users could chat with the data and get common insights and across different sales processes or sales data. It can also be easily deployed with things like your intelligent chatbot, right? That can be used at both service and industries like workforce, where people can chat with it and get information or do certain actions based on a particular chat. And for finance industry, it can do things like your forecasting for different cash flows and financial processes. And for operations, and it's going to be basically supply chain, predictive maintenance, demand forecasting, etc. So we see that across the line of different business units and industries, Gen AI really could play a huge role in transforming how the businesses operate. Going on to the next one, we're going to see some of the common implementation patterns on how do you implement OpenAI with Snowflake. These patterns revolve around the integration technology that is available, as well as the use case and the industry where the business processes reside on. The first one that we're going to talk about is how do you integrate with Azure Machine Learning Prompt Flow. But before I go into the integration piece, we're going to talk a little bit about what Prompt Flow is. Prompt Flow is one of our latest tools from Microsoft, which helps you to do prompt engineering. It's a graphical-based power tool where you can have a combination of both graphical-based as well as use your code for different inputs. This helps in different ways and benefits in many ways. One is to create an AI workflow that connect to different language models and data sources. So you're basically isolating the prompt logic to your data and your application logic that resides within your data warehouse. And it can also help you to not just build a prompt flow or a prompt engineering, but also it can help you build, tune, evaluate, and deploy the different workflows for your AI that involve prompt engineering, right? And it can also do additional stuff like prompt LLOps and LLM ops and other functionalities so that you can deploy it as an endpoint directly within your own Azure tenant that can talk to an Azure OpenAI instance, right? So prompt flows, is pretty powerful, and it's one of the recommended approach that we talk today when integrating OpenAI with Snowflake. So a typical model with prompt flow is going to leverage the new integration that we came out during the Snowflake Summit, which is the Azure Machine Learning integration for Snowflake. We had gone with public preview where you can now integrate Azure Machine Learning natively with Snowflake. The prompt flow is an extension of that to build RAG and the prompt engineering workflows that can then talk to the Azure OpenAI. All of these could be orchestrated from within Snowflake or using the Azure Machine Learning and pipelines. So that way, all the feature engineering and the AV transformation happens within Snowflake, and then machine learning, studio, then Azure Machine Learning Studio then takes over through the notebook, deploying the model or the pipeline, which can then talk to the Azure OpenAI using the prompt flow. You can also make use of the extended data that is available at the Snowflake marketplace to enhance the prompt engineering process and also enhance the data that you feed for the OpenAI so that it can give you better insights. Going on to the next model, one of the key things to look at, and this could also be taught as an extension to the previous architecture, is how does the end user apply those prompt engineering or apply the Gen AI data to their workforce, right? Or to their workflow. This is where Power Apps would come in. We did go public preview for the Power Apps connector to Snowflake recently, and that connector can very well use to integrate it to Azure OpenAI directly using the Power Apps, or they can also use the prompt flow in the Azure ML as a backend where the prompt engineering happens there, and the Power Apps is basically a front-facing tool for consuming these insights. This is pretty much useful for scenarios where you're trying to build an app or a bot that users are interacting with, or you need to have a form, or even you need to embed some kind of Power BI report that accepts input through the OpenAI with the help of Power Apps. These are very good candidates, as Power Apps is completely a low-code, no-code transformative platform from Microsoft, and this has been used by a lot of enterprises for building front-end or building an application serving layer for their LLM use cases together with Snowflake. Going on to the next one. This is basically using a functionality in Snowflake called as external function. External function is a native functionality to Snowflake where you will be able to use Python or Snowpark-based UDF to call an integration that talks to an API management, Azure API management, which then calls an Azure function to send the API request to OpenAI and then get the response back into Snowflake. This is primarily used if you already have data in Snowflake and you want to enrich that data with the support of OpenAI. This use case is pretty much usable for that. An external function has been around for a long time, but due to the recent announcement at the Snowflake Summit, we are moving on to a better or an upgraded functionality to an external function called as Snowpark External Access, which we are going to be seeing next. So the Snowpark External Access is a feature that has been announced at this year's Snowflake Summit. Basically, external access streamlines the process on how do you talk to an external API without going to multiple different ops that we saw in the previous external function method. Snowpark External Access can whitelist the Azure OpenAI, set up a secure API integration, and then talk to OpenAI sending a request. So all the data transformations and everything happens within Snowflake, and you can use the Snowpark UDF to basically call the external access, which can send request to OpenAI, get the response back, and the data is already available in Snowflake that you can either use for downstream processing, or most likely the use case is going to write it to another table, which is then used for analytics or combining with the existing data that's already available in Snowflake. The final one is basically putting in another app layer in front of it, which is utilizing Streamlit. Streamlit has been acquired by Snowflake. It's an open source Python-based framework for building data apps. Streamlit can be deployed on top of an Azure web app, and Streamlit as a component through HTTPS to interact with the OpenAI, and Streamlit as a Snowflake connector component where the data is then resides within Snowflake. So Streamlit can be deployed pretty soon natively in Snowflake, but also can be deployed privately on the Azure web app. And Streamlit will basically hold the front-end apps piece so that all your users would interact through Streamlit, and it can then do the transition between the data and Snowflake to the response back from OpenAI. And some of the call to actions, we do have a quick start that we published on how to use OpenAI with Snowflake. This is something that is strongly recommended to be checked because it has a step-by-step quick start along with GitHub repositories and all of the examples. We also have the patterns in detail published as a blog, in the Snowflake's Medium site, and we also have a blog detailing about with a demo on how to integrate Streamlit with Azure OpenAI. In addition to that, I would also recommend you to reach out to your Snowflake and Microsoft account teams so that they can reach out to us where we are available to help in any case, right? But finally, I would want to thank Matt for hosting this session and also being a partner in crime in helping us build all of these different integrations.
Yeah, thanks, 𝗫𝗫𝗀, and thanks everyone for taking the time to watch this presentation. What we talked about was kind of just, to recap, we talked about the kind of foundational partnership that Snowflake has with Microsoft, talked about both of our perspectives on Gen AI, LLM, and then talked about how to use them together, both from a kind of business use case standpoint, and then also technically what the architectural patterns look like. Go ahead and check those resources out, and then hit up your account teams if you want to kind of get better connected with 𝗫𝗫𝗀 and myself. We're always happy to help. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.